It was just another ordinary Saturday evening, and James, a single dad and a waiter at a modest diner in downtown Chicago, was going about his shift as usual. Balancing two jobs and the responsibilities of raising his 7-year-old daughter, Lily, James rarely had time to breathe, let alone think about anything beyond work and family. On that particular evening, the diner was bustling more than usual. The smell of fried chicken, sizzling burgers, and fresh-baked bread filled the air, and the chatter of families, couples, and friends made the place feel alive. James moved swiftly between tables, refilling drinks, taking orders, and ensuring that every customer felt welcomed. Among the crowd that evening was a man who seemed out of place in the humble diner. He was impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, wearing a wristwatch that James could only guess cost more than his car. There was a certain air of confidence about him, a quiet authority that made heads turn as he walked past. The man sat alone in a corner booth and perused the menu with the kind of nonchalance that only someone used to getting whatever they wanted could pull off. James approached with a polite, practiced smile. "Good evening, sir. Can I start you off with something to drink?" The man looked up, briefly meeting James's eyes, and simply said, "Water will do." There was no rudeness in his tone, but there was no warmth either. James nodded, took the water, and moved on. Over the next few minutes, the man placed a simple order: a steak, cooked medium rare, with a side of roasted vegetables. While James was serving other tables, he couldn't help but notice the man occasionally glancing around the diner, observing the little chaos with a detached curiosity. There was nothing unusual about a wealthy customer visiting a local diner, but something about this man made James uneasy in the most subtle way. When the meal was delivered, James checked in a couple of times, ensuring that the steak was cooked to perfection and that everything was satisfactory. The man nodded politely each time but didn't engage in conversation. By the time James cleared the last few plates from nearby tables, the man was ready to leave. James approached with a hopeful smile, expecting, perhaps, a generous tip. He didn't know what came over him, but in his heart, he wished that this single act of kindness could provide a little extra for Lily, perhaps even cover her school field trip that week or buy a few books she had been asking for. The man handed James the check. James looked down, heart sinking as he realized the bill had been paid, but there was no tip left. Not even a single dollar. His stomach twisted as he tried to hide his disappointment. After all, it was rare for someone with such wealth to leave nothing, and while James didn't let it show, it stung. He forced a polite smile. "Thank you, sir. Have a good evening." The man nodded and walked out, disappearing into the city lights as quickly as he had arrived. For a moment, James felt defeated. He walked back to the counter, pushed the thought aside, and started preparing for the next round of customers. But as he stacked the check, his eyes caught something unusual. There was a small folded note tucked underneath the receipt. Curiosity piqued, he unfolded it and read the neatly written words: "Your service tonight reminded me of the kindness and patience that money can never buy. Keep going, you're making a difference." James stared at the note in disbelief. There was no signature, no hint of who the man really was. He felt an unexpected warmth surge through him, a feeling far stronger than any tip could provide. In that moment, the weight of exhaustion and stress he carried seemed a little lighter. That note, simple as it was, felt like validation. Someone recognized his hard work, his dedication, his effort to make every meal, every interaction, meaningful, even when life wasn't easy. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. James went home tired, as usual, but that little note stayed with him. He showed it to Lily before bed, reading the words aloud, and for the first time in weeks, she saw her father smile without worry. That night, James realized something profound. Sometimes, the impact of one person on another isn't measured in money or material wealth, but in acknowledgement, in genuine appreciation, in the simple act of noticing someone's effort. In the days that followed, James shared the story with a few close friends. Each retelling seemed to amplify the significance of the moment. He began to notice the small gestures he gave to others, how he smiled at a nervous customer, comforted a child waiting for their parents, or went the extra mile to make someone feel welcome. The note reminded him that even small actions could ripple outwards in ways he couldn't see. Weeks later, something unexpected happened. The man returned to the diner, sitting in the same corner booth as before. James recognized him immediately, though he was no longer concerned about the tip. The man smiled faintly as James approached. "I wanted to thank you again," he said quietly. "That note was meant to tell you something important. The world needs people like you. People who care, even when no one is watching." James was taken aback. I don't know what to say," he stammered. "You didn't even leave a tip." The man chuckled softly. "Money can't measure worth. Your work, your effort, your kindness, that's invaluable. That's why I left the note. I wanted you to know that someone out there sees the difference you make." From that day forward, James felt a renewed sense of purpose. He approached each shift with more energy and optimism, inspired by the knowledge that his efforts mattered. His story, shared on social media by a fellow diner, quickly went viral. People were touched by the narrative of the billionaire who left no tip but left something far more valuable. Messages of encouragement, small donations, and offers of support poured in from strangers all over the country. Some sent books for Lily. Others offered gift cards, scholarship tips, and even opportunities for James to advance his career. James never sought fame or recognition. All he wanted was to provide a better life for Lily and show her the importance of integrity and compassion. But in a world often focused on wealth and material gain, the story became a reminder that true value isn't always measurable in dollars. One simple act of acknowledgement had created a chain reaction of positivity that James never could have imagined. Months later, James reflected on that night as he tucked Lily into bed. The note was framed on the kitchen wall, a constant reminder of the moment that changed everything. "Remember, Lily," he said, "sometimes the smallest gestures, the kindest words, can mean more than money ever could. Never forget that." Lily smiled, resting her head on his shoulder, her eyes full of admiration for the dad who worked so hard, yet always found time to be kind. James's life didn't change overnight. The work was still hard, and challenges didn't disappear. But something fundamental shifted. The recognition he received, the knowledge that someone noticed, someone cared, gave him a sense of pride and confidence that no tip or paycheck could provide. The story of the billionaire leaving no tip but writing a simple note became an emblem of hope for people everywhere, a reminder that empathy, gratitude, and acknowledgement are priceless. In the end, James realized the true lesson wasn't about money, fame, or success. It was about human connection, about the impact one person can have on another simply by taking the time to notice, appreciate, and encourage. And for a single dad doing his best to navigate a challenging world, that was worth more than all the tips in the world. This article is written for emotional impact, perfect for a YouTube narration with dramatic pauses, background music, and visual storytelling. If you want, I can also create a YouTube-friendly script version with timestamps, narration cues, and suggested visuals that aligns perfectly with this story. That version could make your video super engaging. Do you want me to do that next?